And we're back again, gentlemen and ladies. This time on time, unlike last time around. बहुत बार time बोला, 3 बार time बोला एक ही sentence में. Neha, welcome again. Overdressed, I see, but it's okay. It's okay. Someone seems to have an issue with whatever it is. I don't know what it is, Neha. But how are we today on this fantastic Saturday?
Absolutely doing well, Akshay. I think we have had such an exciting week of women's cricket. All the matches that have transpired. So, it's like I have all of these points from the entire week stored in my head, just waiting to get started.
Yeah, we've had a bit of everything, right? Tests, ODIs, T20Is, washouts, domestic cricket. There's just so much that's happened. There's, of course, a lot of, chatter around the WPL as well. So, lots to talk about. Guys, make sure you hit the like button once again. पहले starting में बोल देते हैं एक बार, in case we forget it later. Like, subscribe, सब कर दो पहले. But नेहा, कहाँ से start करना? We'll probably start with Smriti. Okay, WPL. Okay, fair. Chalo, WPL.
Fresh news, as you say.
Yeah, exactly. Fresh news for sure. WPL right now, the rumors going around or reports going around is that it'll start on the 6th of February, end on the 9th of March.
A proper month-long thing we're looking at.
So that's interesting, and clearly. There is, a direction being looked at by the BCCI in terms of pushing it further back. And they've already confirmed that starting 2026, the window will be Jan in order to not clash with the IPL or any of India's the men's cricketing commitments.
Makes sense,
Yeah. So, given these dates, importantly, I guess another update, of course, the much more important update is the fact that Bangalore is not hosting the WPL season 3. I'm genuinely upset. I'm flabbergasted. सारा जो भी अवनीश का इंग्लिश है ना वो सब मेरे मुंह से आ रहा है बट यार चल क्या रहा है लाइक हाउ एज डिफेंडिंग चैंपियंस एक बार जीता भाई एक बार I want to go and visit the home of the defending champions. Unfortunately, that also won't be happening.
No, but honestly, they're looking at Ahmedabad and Lucknow as the other venues. I'm still trying to understand what could be the mindset, to probably open up a new window and, place for WPL to attract more crowds. But honestly, when you have such a good set of spectators coming in to watch it in Bangalore and Mumbai, to some extent even Delhi, right? Although we saw a lot of RCB chants in Delhi, it is a little surprising as to what is the mindset, because Ahmedabad is a massive stadium. You don't want to see like some half crowd, and you don't like those visuals, right? So I'm not entirely sure what is the mindset, but if it's with the intention of growing the game, I don't know, maybe we'll take that.
Firstly, let us be foolishly optimistic and assume that they want to grow the game, which is why they're doing this. Fair. Ahmedabad, firstly, like you said, भाई वो 1.5 lakh capacity वाला stadium है. वहाँ पे 50,000 भी लगता है. अरे ये तो मतलब 2/3 खाली है. Exactly. Like yesterday, the attendance was 47,000, and north of that, if as many people watch it in Ahmedabad, look empty. It looked empty AF. So first of all, that.
And the women's game is also growing, right? So the optics obviously make a very big difference. The moment you turn on your TV and you see like the stadium is like half empty, half full, it doesn't give a good impression for a league that's still in its third, phase and still, sort of trying to grow. So go on.
I mean, exactly that point, right? Given that we are still growing the game, and given that we've seen, there being a decent enough audience, viewing audience at least in Mumbai, Bangalore, and to some extent even Delhi for that matter. Firstly that, and secondly, भाई मतलब surfaces पे भी मेरे को बहुत भरोसा नहीं है. Ahmedabad, Lucknow both aren't exactly known, for their boundary hitting or run scoring conduciveness.
It'll be like low scoring matches, and a lot of people will just get very drawn away from the game, which is counterproductive, I'd say, honestly.
I mean, a month-long tournament in Lucknow is a recipe for disaster. That's how I would look at this, because we need to understand. To begin with, the surface in Lucknow is fairly spin-friendly, is not, very high-scoring. And surfaces, of course, progressively will slow down even more.
As the tournament
goes on. So, given that, it makes even little sense कि वहाँ पे क्यों जाना है.
But can we also briefly discuss on why the WPL doesn't have the home and away format? Because in all fairness, I know we just have 5 teams. And it's really difficult, work out the logistics for a home and away thing. But when you have venues that's really working well for you, what do you think could be the intention behind this, right?
Home and away, firstly, like you said, logistical constraints play a factor there. There'll be a lot of travel involved. And also given that there are only 5 teams, so you can't have too many rest days. Each team is playing every other day, if not every day. So given that there'll be a lot of travel, and there'll be a lot of travel happening very quickly.
Which gets very stressful for the players.
Players के लिए बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है.
Unless the league expands to a lot of teams, and then it kind of makes sense to have a home and
6 is the bare minimum. Logistically, तुम देखोगे because 6-team tournament में no team will have to play on 2 successive days. अभी the first WPL saw every team play or 4 teams play on consecutive days at least once. Last season, we saw only one team, UP Warriors, play on consecutive days. And that will happen this season as well because there are only 5 teams. Come 6 teams, you'll have at least that bit of leeway, which means, BCCI or the IPLGC can also consider home and away formats. And they've already mentioned that as well. 2026, they will do home and away. Once 6 teams come in, so it'll make sense then. So that is one. And secondly, in terms of, sorry, what was the other bit that you mentioned?
Home and away format and the intention of choosing this.
Lucknow and Ahmedabad. Again, UP Warriors, Gujarat Giants, unka ghar hai, ye sab. Fair enough. Pehli baat to franchises themselves are at a very nascent stage. Both of them. RCB, MIDC
are more established ones, and they have a men's team as well. Right? So there is a fan base too.
They were able to leverage an existing fan base. That's not the case with UP Warriors and Gujarat Giants. There, they will have to build a base from scratch, and that takes time.
And they are doing a reasonable job with that.
Sure.
No social media pe dekh rahe hain thoda bahut, but then it's still a long way to go. And probably to just thrust them with the entire league itself might be a little like...
I would say it's a bit of a responsibility, unnecessary responsibility.
And a little premature also.
And एक और चीज ये यार, जो भी इनके fans है, लखनऊ गुजरात के fans है, we need to understand, at least I think this is just me, trying to extrapolate my general assumptions. I don't think a lot of their fans are based in Lucknow and Ahmedabad. We need to understand. RCB's fans, RCB's fans are based in Bangalore. Mumbai's fans are based in Bangalore. There's cities. यहाँ पे women's cricket in general is a lot more popular. We saw that when India, South Africa, the ODIs happened here. We saw when Mumbai hosted the T20Is yesterday and the other two as well. We saw attendance. We saw very good attendance. The same can't be said about the ODIs that happened in Ahmedabad. The India-New Zealand ODIs, what did you make of the attendance then?
It was pretty bad, honestly. Most of the times there were like just pockets of crowd sitting in places and not the best possible visuals you would want to see. Although India went on to win the series, wo baat alag hai. But most of the pictures and the visuals you see is of an empty stadium.
Exactly.
Is not for good side.
Like, that's where we need to understand it's not just like men's cricket is very different from women's cricket, women's cricket is very different from women's cricket.
Let's call women's cricket an entity in itself.
So you can't directly, draw false equivalences from men's cricket and say, हाँ, वहाँ पे वैसे home and away format काम किया, वहाँ पे करता है because cricket हर कोई देखता है. So there is a sense of belonging कि okay, मैं गुजराती हूँ, गुजरात मेरा side है. With Gujarat Giants, I don't know, again, at the risk of sounding very stupid and very foolish, कितने अहमदाबादी होंगे जिनको पता है कि गुजरात जायंट्स है और ये हमारी
I think they know that the team exists, dude. ऐसे
क्योंकि कबड्डी टीम है, सेम नाम है. I'm sorry, this is me being very ignorant probably, but
no, but they do have a fan base. I'm pretty sure
they do. I'm not saying Gujarat Giants does not have a fan base. I'm saying
how many people are aware of the team itself?
How big? I mean, how big a chunk of that fan base is based in Ahmedabad itself? That's my question.
Enough.
They have a decent enough fan base for sure. अरे बड़े नाम है वहाँ पे, Ashley Gardner, Beth Mooney, Laura Wolfhard, all of that.
Phoebe Litchfield and all of these guys.
अरे आप बताओ कितने लोग हैं जिनको Phoebe Litchfield पता होगा?
Someone who's probably an ardent women's cricket fan would know, but how many of them?
And the odds of such ardent fans being in Ahmedabad are, I would say, significantly lower, if not just slightly lower than say Mumbai, Bangalore. मैं बस वैसे ही बोल रहा. That's right now. I don't think anyone should be looking at teams building their individual fan base. It should be about how do we promote the league. Yeah, exactly. The game consequently. It's more about that.
The larger picture rather than
So I don't know. I might be way off. I might be wrong. So we'll have to hold our horses. Wait.
It's a report itself. So I'm hoping BCCI sees this sort of a reaction coming in from everyone and kind of reconsiders.
That is being extremely optimistic.
यार आज तो मतलब pre-quarter finals stream हुआ, so like
that's true.
Our appeal worked, I think. It didn't.
No, but at the very least, on that itself, मेरा बस यही है कि अगर वहाँ पे जाता भी है ना, I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope Ahmedabad throngs to the stadium. I hope Lucknow packs the stadium to the rafters, and I'll be thrilled. I'll be the one wiping the egg off my face and happily watching these games. So there are no two questions about that. So fingers crossed कि वो हो. at the very least यार Bangalore को एक गेम तो दे दो यार, ये तो मतलब एकदम cheating ही हो गया, एकदम
cheating. Wow. Okay.
मतलब just I would say CC Jaykant Shikre from Singham. I don't know if you're a big enough Bollywood fan.
I do.
तो भाई, but in terms of comments, of course, we have seen a few comments. Producers up, let's just have them all out. We will keep taking them now before we move on. Rather than the Ahmedabad Stadium, can't they host it in Baroda? The ODIs are going to take place over there.
Fair shout, honestly. I hope we get a good impression and idea of how it's shaping up. So again, Baroda, an interesting venue, right?
Wait, interesting venue, sure, but that same argument can be extended to Baroda as well, right? Ahmedabad mein agar nahi to Baroda ka tier 2 city ja rahe ho, Arish. So I'll hold on to my thoughts. Baroda is, I don't know when was the last time they even hosted a women's game. Kafi time baad ho raha hai. Yeah. Assuming that they have hosted before. So isliye wait karte hain. Let's see if the stadiums are packed, then why not? Sure. Because Smriti Mandhana, Harmanpreet Kaur, clearly now they have become big enough
household
brands.
names, absolutely. No doubt about that. Jemima Rodriguez, Shreyanka Patil to that credit. Even Deepti Sharma, right?
Of course, these names. So, which is why I'm hoping कि थोड़ा उनके लिए से आ जाए लोग. तो देखते हैं. Arish, show fair shout. Let's wait and see how that goes. Sports fan, meanwhile, asking us how are venues allotted in other leagues, the 100, WBBL and the WCPL. WCPL, I know, happens only in one venue. 3 teams are वहाँ पे यार. 5 में हम लोग झगड़ रहे, 3 पे तो झगड़ने की भी बात नहीं आती. बहुत कम है. WBBL, I know, is proper home and away.
They have enough teams to do that. The same with 100, honestly.
8 teams है. वहाँ पे तो 10 है ना. 100 में तो 10 teams है.
Oh, there's 10? Okay, I thought that there's 8 itself.
Oh no, 100 is 8. 100 is 3 out of 8 and WBBL is 5.
सब लोग IPL.
Sorry. So 8 team है. Like we said, logistical constraints तो 6 teams के साथ ही हम लोग negate कर सकते हैं. 8 teams में तो it's not even
much easier, honestly.
So yeah, KKR, RR, आप सब देख रहे हो तो टीम खरीद लो मेरे भाई जल्दी.
I think KKR actually did put a bid, but they just missed during WPL.
675 crores. Yeah.
I'm sure we will see them in 2026 or probably in future seasons when the league
26 KKR should be the next in line for that, of course. Completely agree. And in terms of course WPL and what we had to say, that was that. So again, guys, rumors हैं अभी भी, reports हैं, nothing has been
concrete,
confirmed. Exactly, speculations ही चल रहे हैं फिलहाल. We were just sharing our thoughts on what we think.
The pros and cons, just looking at that.
Of hosting it in Lucknow and Ahmedabad. तो but yeah, as RCB fans, भाई एक मैच तो बनता है कम से कम टूर्नामेंट ओपनर बैंगलोर में खिला लो, उसके बाद लखनऊ, गुजरात, जहां जाना आप जाओ खिलाओ, हम मतलब सपोर्ट करेंगे. So fingers crossed on that. Moving on, of course, abhi Smriti, we'll talk about Smriti Mandhana, the kind of year she's had in 2024. Phenomenal numbers, yeah. I mean, the best ever performance by a batter in women's T20Is.
763 runs.
Yeah, record
it
that
rings in your ear, right?
Exactly.
That's the sort of impact she's had.
Yeah, by the way, 763 runs also for the uninitiated is the most runs by a women's batter in a calendar year, of course. Beating Chamari Attappattu, 724 unka record tha. But again, yeah, bizarre in the sense, बहुत अच्छे numbers है. But we cannot look past that whole tag of she not
being
performing,
inconsistent and all of that.
Exactly, and not performing when when it's necessary, when it's needed. Australia series में हमने देखा, World Cup में हमने देखा. Australia I know खैर छोड़ो, format ही दूसरा था. But what do you make of that? Of that conversation, first of all, of her not being a clutch player, not coming good at the right times, and also of her performing only in dead rubbers and stuff like that.
See, in all fairness, I think Smriti Mandhana is very much like a victim of her own standards because every single time, she steps onto the field, people expect her century to is bare minimum. If she gets a 50, they're like, just played her knock and got off. Honestly, I'd want the team to kind of step up around her. We see her kind of assume that leadership role, right? I think in the third T20, it was a clear example. She even spoke about how, she's trying to lead from the front and there are a lot of youngsters coming in. So, trying to ease the transition for them. And I think she's doing her bit. There have been instances where, the batting has collapsed around her. She's been the, lone warrior, so to say. But then again, I think it would be unfair to expect her to perform every game. I mean, cricket is a sport. It's a team sport, right? You'd want the other players also to come to the party. So to expect her only to step up in every single match is probably a tad bit unfair. And although Smriti Mandhana is looked at as a senior, she herself is pretty young, right? Still kind of, I wouldn't say finding her feet in international cricket, but then she isn't probably as old as Harmanpreet Kaur or Mithali Raj.
of course.
Itna to experience nahi hai. She's also kind of, figuring her thing out. So I feel that kind of criticism is a little uncalled for, and inconsistent is probably not the word. I feel she will eventually come in, these clutch situations, but deeming her inconsistent is just going a little like far-fetched, yeah.
That bit I do agree. I wouldn't call her inconsistent for sure. And yeah, she's 28. That way not very old. But I sort of do see where fans are coming from. And they say ki, come the big games, come the important games, come the knockouts, must wins and all of that. She's not been there amongst the runs for
it. But that's when you need the others to step up, right? In all fairness.
That's true.
Yeah.
That I completely am with you on that. But ek baar to banta to hai na. Like, wo hai. Like, I don't know to what extent can you call the WPL final knock. She scored 40 ball 28 aisa kuch. I still would say it's a good enough knock because she got the job done. The job was to score runs and not run rate. Run rate का कोई सवाल ही पैदा नहीं होता. Final था. But fair enough यार. India Australia वो must win game हो. World Cup में जो हुआ था. 2017 World Cup final comes to mind. The 2023 World Cup semi-final comes to mind. There have been enough games, in the sense 4 to 5 games at least, and she's not really done. Her numbers are very poor across formats, of course. And even in the Australia series, यार मतलब मैं मजाक में ऐसे बोल दिया था to one of my colleagues. पहले 2 ODIs में चली नहीं था. Like हाँ अभी dead rubber है, tension मत लो. That was just a joke. But
I see where you're coming from, honestly.
So how do you then look at that? Because I'm not saying it's right, but you can see why people are saying that. Numbers clearly point at that. Data points at that. She's not performed. So that is the truth. Whether you look at it objectively or not, you can't hide that fact. So given that, you think it sort of dilutes her performances this year, or do you think jo bhi hai yaar 763 runs or 763 runs, you can't change that?
I think in all fairness, we have to look at it in this way, that she's human at the end of the day. Matlab, aise to cricketers banaye nahi gaye hain with that template who will perform every single time. Just look at her numbers. It's on our screen right now. Though, I mean, just 763 runs with the kind of average, the 50s and everything. I mean, we'll have to accept this with a pinch of salt, that there have been occasions where she hasn't really come good. Again, just briefly looking at the ODI numbers as well, scoring those 4 centuries, they have come in situations when India needed it the most. But I feel, honestly, at this point, India needs other players to step up. You can't just, have a start and then not be able to capitalize. Case in point, Jemima Rodriguez during the Australia ODIs. She got starts, but just could not take it from there. I need the others to step up in the team, to kind of complement her. So I wouldn't really, throw Smriti Mandhana under the bus. But probably as time goes on, we would expect a little more from her. But again, I wouldn't take the inconsistent and all of those claims too seriously.
Inconsistency, I mean, wo numbers ke baat to producers have, let's just have the numbers out. We'll read it out for our Spotify listeners as well. 23 matches, 763 runs, an average of 42.38 in T20Is. That's phenomenal. 8 50s. And then when it comes to ODIs this year, 10 matches, 599 runs, 150 and 400. That's a fantastic conversion rate, by the way. 2 against South Africa, 1 against New Zealand, 1 against Australia, hopefully 1 against West Indies.
West Indies,
That'll be another interesting stat to look at. I'll look at that later. High score of 136, of course. She scored centuries against 3 different sides. Could potentially have a century against the 4th side. I want to try and look back how many people who've scored centuries against 4 different sides in a calendar year. That'll be an interesting start to look at.
And another interesting thing that I wanted to talk about was even Smriti's partners, right, in each of these series has changed constantly. So I think the onus then entirely ends up falling on her, and then she ends up, making those mistakes, getting out. Because you don't have stability at the other end, you're taking most of the pressure on yourself, right? And I think that could also be one of the factors that, could have played a role, because Shefali has had a very up and down sort of year. I mean, you look at her numbers, it's still fairly decent in T20s. I was talking to Akshay off record, of how she could have been a value add in the T20 setup at least. But India's selection calls are probably a discussion for a whole other podcast. But
See, I have a million problems with the Indian setup right now, and Shefali Verma isn't one of them, because I can still see why they look past her, because 2-3 साल में अगर तुम runs नहीं बना पा रहे तो देखना ही पड़ेगा. I know her numbers might not indicate that, but remove that knock against UAE in the Asia Cup. Her 2024 was also fairly, okay, I don't want to say abysmal, I'll say mediocre. So, वो तो है ही. Meanwhile, Pooja Gupta also saying, when Smriti bats well, India looks like an unbeatable team. Instead of saying that she flopped in the World Cup, no one asks, why did the team not perform when she wasn't able to score?
Similar to, I think, what I was trying to reflect
Pooja, she is at the end of the day a star player, right? Like if she's a brand, there's a reason why she's a brand. There's a reason why the team depends on her.
Yeah.
So the onus will always be on her a lot more than it is on the rest.
And I think she's also being looked at, potentially as an India captain as well, because with Harmanpreet Kaur, not getting younger by the day, I think, again, that onus, responsibility, leadership will fall on Smriti Mandhana, and I think we will see her sort of come good, at least as RCB fans, as fans of her. We would kind of hope for that. Yeah.
I mean, there's an ODI World Cup coming up this year, and that'll be a home edition, so no better time than to come good at home in front of whatever packed crowds. I'm guessing Eden Gardens is slated to hold the host the final.
Okay.
Or
I don't know about that.
It'll be Ahmedabad here. Eden Gardens is for the T20 World Cup. Next year's T20 World Cup final. Then let's of course take a few comments. Producer Saab, if there are any that we haven't. Looks like Annabelle Sutherland is another penny for Australia. What's your view? Do we talk about it? We'll say, Rahul, we will get back to this when we talk about the Australia and New Zealand series. Fair point though that. Sports fan also saying, better not to hype win and runs versus West Indies. Lots of concerns to ponder to. But when I got to know about the stats of first bilateral win in 5 years, it was very surprising.
Correction, first bilateral T20 series win in 5 years. Bhai, matlab ODI to jeete hai, but good one. Good point.
And again, उसमें भी अभी देखो South Africa 1-0 था because वो एक match डूब गया. Australia, England, we lost 2-1 in both cases, and there was 4-1 against Australia way back. So, sports fan, that is a fair stat, but it's also because we've hardly played too many bilaterals. In 2023, I don't think we played any T20I bilaterals, barring that England series in December. पूरे साल हमने कोई खेला ही नहीं, so naturally वो होता ही है. Extra cover with Halaiva saying, you people come to Lucknow and say, मुस्कुराइए, अब लखनऊ में हैं. यार हम तो बोल देंगे, but हमारे साथ बोलने वाले और लोग होंगे ना, वो हमें मतलब उसमें शक है.
The whole point is to kind of grow the game, have a lot more people coming in, and I think we just expressed our inhibitions of will there be enough crowds coming in?
Yeah, I mean, fingers crossed. There will be.
We are proven wrong.
Yeah, exactly. You're always up for that. But in terms of Smriti's numbers, sure. It's been great. And onwards and upwards for her. That is something I always say in general for people, for teams. But in Smriti's case, numbers are changed. Now it's all about converting these performances to wins for the team. That's even more important, if I may say so. Sure, abhi performance aa rahe. Now it's all about making sure that performances actually wins में तब्दील हो रहे हैं, because फायदा नहीं अगर आप सेंचुरी मार के इंडिया टीम हार जाती है, इंडिया मैच हार जाती है. So
I think in one of the ODIs also versus Australia, we kind of saw that, and it was a tad bit disappointing. I see where the frustration for the fans also comes from. Ki, you're getting a century, but that's when you expect the others, to kind of step up, put their hand and take responsibility. I hope that sort of a direction is also being investigated by the team.
Yeah, I mean, as long as she's aware of this, she understands that, यार होता है. Performances आएंगे, फिर naturally टीम भी अच्छी करनी लगेगी. So होगा वो, fingers crossed वो भी होगा. And like you mentioned, it is a very important question कि boss, it also doesn't help that she does not have a consistent opening partner. And it somewhere does play a role. I'm not saying इसकी वजह से ये हो रहा है वो हो रहा है.
Yeah. It's just hypothesizing that these could be the possible reasons.
So she's had to play despite not having a consistent opening partner, not because of it. So वो एक है. It does play a role. In fact, Pooja Gupta also asking us about it. Who's going to open with Smriti tomorrow? Will they go with Uma or Richa again? We will save this conversation, of course. थोड़ा बात करते हैं. Producer साहब, let's have the India West Indies squad graphic out as well. India squad for the West Indies series. There we go. Neha, what do you make of this ODI squad, yaar?
Ek to Anurag Talukdar again finds a presence here. So that's lovely to see.
Exactly. हमने डाला है क्योंकि हर जगह है. We know for a fact it's no one. Anurag Talukdar is a 27-year-old Assamese cricketer. He is no one, and it's a he, importantly. But हमने डाला है क्योंकि सब डाल रहे. अगर स्टार वाले डाल सकते हैं, cricket.com वाले डाल सकते हैं, cricket.com वाले डाल सकते हैं, हम भी डाल सकते हैं. So वही है.
No, but jokes apart, I mean, just looking at India's ODI squad, I was a tad bit disappointed. Of course, Arundhati Reddy does not find herself here, which was not the most ideal move for India, considering the third, ODI she had versus Australia. And even, Shefali Verma not getting the longer rope. Fair enough, okay. But then India should have thought about who would be, that sort of an opener we look at. See, the likes of having Ragbi Bisht or Nandini Kashyap would have made sense. Now, again, India enters the series with let's probably put Uma Chetri under, throw her under the bus again, or let's go open with Richa, which is not the kind of thing you want to do, right?
Or why not get Pratika Rawal? क्यों नहीं? Open कर दिया नहीं, but कर लो. देखते हैं क्या होता है.
And even not seeing Radha Yadav's name in that list was a tad bit disappointing. She has done her, due diligence and role in ODIs, especially in the series versus.
She got a 5-4, was it? No, she got.
Yeah, she was, I think, one of the highest wicket takers. So in that sense, not seeing her was also very disappointing. But again, the point is, India again heads into another series with more questions being asked about the squad. Absolutely no clarity or transparency on what is transpiring. So
I wish I could just go back to the first episode where Neha was like, I hope India West Indies ODIs के time पे हमारा World Cup squad दिखाई दे हमें. And
next I feel Ireland. Maybe we'll figure out.
मैं कह रहा हूँ ना, World Cup शुरू होने के एक हफ्ते पहले भी हम लोग सोच रहे हैं यार ये खेल सकती है क्या? अरे नहीं, उसको खिलाता है. अरे नहीं, वो सवाल like the way the current management, the current think tank is looking at things.
Clearly, there is a lack of foresight, to look at what are potential good options to consider. यार आज के match में देखो, उत्तराखंड के match में Raghavi Bisht and Nandini Kashyap both end up playing so well, right? Why are you not considering them as options? Uma Chetri hasn't done like out of the world good so far in domestic, but again, you're giving her some of the more difficult roles to execute. Because my concern is, with India, they give chances to players, they don't perform, they're out of the reckoning. Forget about pecking order. We've seen that time and again with so many players, right? I think, it's just...
What's even more concerning is that Raghavi Bisht, for instance, वो India A जो tour हुआ था, India A tour of Australia, she did well in the ODIs.
Yeah, she scored a 15 almost each of those three one-day matches.
So मेरे को यही था, I was actually, when the squads came out, the first thing that struck me was यार इसको ODIs में लेना चाहिए था, T20s में नहीं, क्योंकि T20s के लिए options हैं. She looked more of an ODI batter in those games, and that was streamed, that was telecast, so we did see those games. But the fact that she wasn't selected for the ODIs was very surprising, and given the fact that हमारा middle order वो भी एक settled नहीं है.
Shaky right now.
Number 3 पे कौन है नहीं पता. फिर we've tried so many options. So Raghavi Bisht could have been someone they could have tried. If not Raghavi, maybe even Nandini. Yeah. So that way it is very surprising. Let's just take that comment before we go further into the squad and talk about more things. Sports fans saying, is Uma Chetri just warming the bench for someone to be replaced in a big tournament? पता नहीं यार क्या scene है उसका. Uma Chetri is a tad bit surprising, and also the
we were talking
T20Is
also, na, in the T20, she really looked not the part, like as a opener role.
There are better options, to put it very simply.
Yeah.
Another name that probably is not even being spoken about right now anywhere, Vrinda Dinesh. It's very surprising. Just look at her numbers in this edition's ODI trophy. बहुत पहले की भी नहीं, last year भी उनका बहुत अच्छा था. Oh wow. SS98 echoes our thoughts. Vrinda Dinesh should get an opportunity to debut for India in the next T20 series.
Perhaps in ODIs first.
Exactly. T20 छोड़ो यार, ODIs देखो, because Vrinda Dinesh is probably the kind of opener that you'd want to partner Smriti Mandhana.
They'll complement each other really well.
In the same mold as Shefali Verma, very aggressive. In fact, this season she's a third highest run scorer.
And strike rate देखो भाई.
153 यार. Highest strike rate, third highest runs. और क्या चाहिए? And that is pretty much what you want. She's got a very good game against spin. She's got a very good game against pace as well. Yeah, so आज भी हमने जो देखा against Maharashtra, top order में she was one of the lone warriors there apart from the captain Krishnamurthy. 41, the 43 or 41 or 41 or 43, something on those lines. She has
at one point she was really striking well, but then वो थोड़ा wickets गिर गए.
She had to control. But Vrinda is definitely a name they should be looking at. It is sad that they haven't. And Ireland series, जो लोग कह रहे, SS98, you mentioned Ireland series. According to me, doing or playing an Ireland series is a lose-lose situation. You do well, you'll be like, fans or critics will be like, yeah, this is an Ireland series. You can't really consider, you can't, look too much into it. If you do bad, then they'll be like, Ireland ke samne bhi runs nahi banaye. So you will never.
It's a double-edged sword, honestly.
No, it's a single-edged sword that will only go through you. There's no way on earth you can come out of an Ireland series unscathed simply because koi rate hi nahi karega. That's a sad truth. So, which is why I hope thoda sense, better sense prevails and they understand, or at the very least organize a few more bilaterals after the WPL. Last year we saw that Bangladesh tour happening right after the WPL. वो भी pre-planned नहीं था, FTP में भी नहीं था. So hopefully we can see something like that happen this time around.
Playing against any opposition would honestly help the cause. And that is something the BCCI should really look into, because you can't enter a World Cup just on your past laurels. हाँ, मतलब वो series खेला तब खेला and all of that. You need the recent series as well coming into play. I agree.
देखते हैं वहाँ पे क्या होता है. Producer साहब, let's just take the comment before this about Pooja Arundhati. We'll of course get to Pooja Gupta's comment as well. Too many Poojas. बड़े लोग सही बोल के गए कि इंडिया में पत्थर मारोगे पूजा या नेहा पे ही गिरती है. Sorry, that's just the joke. Aris says, with Pooja out due to injury, Arundhati should have been a lock for the ODIs. I don't agree with it. Pooja ho na ho, Arundhati should have been a lock in irrespective. Arish, it did not have to be, conditional ki Pooja nahi hai ya hai. Arundhati,
it's a no-brainer. Like, मतलब क्या बात क्या चल रहा है यार? Why is she not a part? It's just bizarre. It's beyond bizarre at this point. You send her back to play for Kerala in the senior women's one-day trophy. I mean, she hasn't done like.
For what joy? ऑस्ट्रेलिया के टॉप ऑर्डर को चीर के निकाला. अभी तुम्हें जाके देखना है कि केरला के लिए अच्छा कैसे. By the way, before we go forward, of course, current Delhi's fielding coach and former India fielding coach, who's also worked very closely with Arundhati Reddy at Kerala as well, apart from DC, he had some thoughts to share. Producer Saab, Arundhati's selection uske baare mein, please, let's have the reel out right now.
The minute she was dropped, she rang up and she certainly was broken. And I think if you look at the stats, during the World Cup, she was India's highest number wicket along with Rendugu at 7, but she had a better number of wickets. And how do you drop her from the T20 side? Then you take her to Australia, give her one chance, and she took out the entire Australian top order in one spell, bowling almost non-stop. And the catch was dropped over. Right? In fact, Jemima dropped the catch. There would have been 5 wickets, 5 for she lost. And you come back, please, you've given your best, and you're shocked to say that you're not there in both the T20 and one day, which is not on.
Cricket.com. Yeah, I think in all fairness, Biju sir does bring in some fair points. I think this lack of accountability and transparency that we've been screaming about, I think so far in the podcast, just makes sense, right? Because Arundhati has been doing well. And it just is really, really surprising why she is not being considered. At least some reason batao. ठीक है, तुमको नहीं लेना है, मत लो. At least reason batao. But even that is not happening, which is very, very disappointing, so to say.
I have 1-2 theories. मतलब मेरे को लगता है, she's probably, trying to think what could be the reason.
Like actually. Fitness issues that we are not aware
Kya
of.
Fitness? She seems to be fitter than most Indians. Most members in the playing 11. क्या ऐसा कुछ हो सकता है? She's a non-vegetarian in a vegetarian 11, or she's a vegetarian in a non-vegetarian.
Please do not speculate. This will get clipped. No.
Karo clip. और क्या? Maybe she defeated Harman and Amol Mazumdar and all in a game of Uno, and they all took offense. कि हमें कैसे हरा दिया इसने?
Or unless there's some attitude issues we are not sure of, which really doesn't seem to be the case, because so many people have spoken about how, she's such a nice person, and I've read so many articles that Ananya Upendran herself.
Yeah. बहुत लोग.
Is very close to her.
It's not an attitude. मेरे को लगता है Uno वाला is plausible. बहुत Uno खेल रहे होंगे, क्योंकि ये लोग सोच तो नहीं रहे. ये analyst वाले ये सब सोच नहीं रहे. Uno खेल रहे होंगे, पत्ते खेल रहे होंगे, XNO खेल रहे होंगे. तो ये सब खेलते टाइम ना अरुंधति ने हरा दिया होगा. वहाँ पे भी she must have been very good. अच्छा भी सिखाते देखो मतलब.
But you can really see the frustration come through viewers. I think they would also agree with us that we're just speculating here, but it comes from a place of like anger and frustration at not being aware of what are the reasons she's not a part. But I hope she can really prove everyone wrong. And
but what's even more funny is I remember third ODI में ना जब wicket लिए जा रही है, and more than the wickets, that spell, that 8-over stretch, 8-over spell she bowled first up. It looked so good. Sophie Devine on comms was like, I have no clue why didn't she play the first ODIs.
Yeah.
Hopefully now we'll get to see a lot more of her given this performance and all. It was very cute of her to think, हाँ अभी तो ये इंडिया के लिए खेलेगी. Cut to next ODI series से she's been dropped. It's just bizarre, absolutely bizarre. And Lavanya Lakshmi Narayan, that seems to be a new name. Please make sure you hit the like button if you haven't already. She goes on to say, I hope we stop looking at fixtures just from an Indian POV. The Ireland series is valuable for that side as well. We speak of weaker sides needing to level up versus bigger teams. This is exactly that. Completely agree with you, Lavanya.
Ireland is actually shaping up to be a great team. I think so many of their players were, being earmarked ki haan, matlab WPL auction mein aayenge to we can actually go after them. The likes of Orla Prendergast.
No, I wanted her to not get picked by anyone. हम आगे सोच रहे ताकि RCB अगले साल ये
No, but in all fairness, I think Ireland has been doing really well. They've had a recent change in captain as well. Laura Delny.
Yeah, Gaby Lewis now.
Gaby Lewis taking over. So, yeah, I mean, definitely not underestimating Ireland as a side, but then it's the mindset of a lot of fans who might end up underestimating Ireland. You know, they're a weaker side and unke saath jeetna is not such a big deal. In fact, the discourse after the Australia series was that India has a lot of problems that they're probably not going to address because they're going to straight up win versus West Indies and Ireland. A lot of the problems will just get pushed under the carpet, right? I think that was kind of the narrative as well.
Yeah.
It might eventually end up playing out like that. I think we were talking about it from that view.
Yeah, and Lavanya, completely agree with you. When we're talking about the bilateral itself, then of course we're not saying that bilateral should not happen. India should play, Ireland should play. Completely agree with you. Point being, right now we're just talking about players and their performances. And like Neha mentioned, given that the popular perception is Ireland ke samne tumne century bana liya, to kaun sa tir maar diya? That'll always be the way it'll be looked at, and it won't be looked at as, oh bhai, Ireland ke samne isse. No, unfortunately, no one would say that.
Because the perception of Ireland, I think, is still that, they are not that great of a side. And people who ardently and, very avidly follow women's cricket know that they are an emerging team. Yeah. They're doing their bit. Yeah.
I mean, first bilateral in Asia against Bangladesh, they clinched the 3-0. Aisa bhi nahi ki
clean sweep.
Yeah, Gaby Lewis, Ola Pendergast. If you haven't caught our earlier episodes, probably it was it was last week itself where we discussed the T20I series, right? Both look fantastic. Players of spin. Ola in particular with the new ball is very lethal. They're definitely shaping up to be a good side. So agree with you, don't worry. We're not underestimating the side. It's just about how selections work in India. So we were just talking about it from that lens, but fair point. Completely agree with you on that. Adarsh Kumar, meanwhile, saying the Indian team needs quality all-rounders who can win you with both the bat and ball in difficult situations.
I say, there's a template and a blueprint. We have players who can do that. It's honestly difficult to get them just out of the blue. You need to give them a lot of exposure, a lot of domestic.
Before we get it. Humaira Kazi was not bought. We know extra cover with Talaiva. Producers, we know this. We've discussed this last week as well. It was sad that she wasn't picked up. Pooja is a bits and pieces player. Okay, we'll get to that. But you were saying though.
Wait, we were talking
all-rounders and they mentioned that we need an all-rounder who can contribute with both the bat and ball. You were saying that it's not easy to...
Yeah, it's not easy to just generate players like that. You need to, push them in certain match situations, kind of ensure that the grooming is done right from the grassroots level itself, because I think a lot of cricketers have been asked this question, why does India not have a lot of, pace bowling all-rounders? Why are academies not supporting, the growth of such players? Because it takes a toll on the body itself, right? So even if you have a few exceptions, people who are on the outlier, say the likes of Arundhati Reddy, Hoya, even Pooja Vastrikar, they have to be groomed and given those opportunities, right? Even Pooja Vastrikar, for that matter, for the longest time, we didn't know why she was not part of the team. Then pata chala ki injury tha, and then she went on to play domestic. It just didn't make sense. Even now, we understand that I think it is still an injury that is keeping her away.
I mean, that's what they had to say, right?
Yeah.
Shriyanka Patil, her...
Asha Shobana and all of these guys are out because of injury. So, yeah, we really need to groom the all-rounders properly and just, have them in good stead.
Yeah, in fact, I'll get back to that. Yeah. Not just that, Biju George, once again, he also had to share his thoughts on the injuries bit. In terms of how, India as a side, it's just very weird how to look at that. But we'll get back to it later, producers. For now, we'll just take a few more comments.
Yeah.
Basically, the point being that we also need to understand why are there so many injuries happening. All of a sudden...
Workload management.
तो क्यों नहीं हो रहा है वो? Again, तुम एक तो इतने chopping, changing ये सब कर रहे हो, उसके बाद भी तुम अगर workload manage नहीं कर पाए, so where are things going wrong? So that's another conversation to be had. Of course, like we said earlier, they've got a million problems and this is the least of their concerns. पहले तो वो अपना first 11 सुधार ले. Pooja Gupta, meanwhile also asking us, what are your opinions on Amol as a coach? So much chopping at the last moment is kind of making the team more inconsistent. क्या ही बोल रहे बताओ?
I mean, we can't disagree with that, right? Because when Amol sir came into the team, obviously a lot of expectations were there. He has done his, fair job in men's cricket and all of that. So coming to women's cricket, we did think, man will bring that sort of a philosophy and everything. But I think besides showing all of those, bravery and all of that in press conferences, we haven't really seen that translate and percolate into the team as well. Just giving players the kind of confidence ki boss, even if you have a couple of rough matches, we will sort of back you. It's been disappointing in that sense ki players haven't been given the longer rope. I mean, certain players have, but certain players haven't. And then the lack of accountability and transparency, even with, why certain players are dropped and picked, is also a big, big factor. So in that sense, yeah, it's kind of been a letdown so far.
मैं तो इतना polite नहीं रहूंगा. It's just been a let down. It's just gone from bad to worse, and now we are headed towards worse as well. And
I think Akshay and I were also talking about this possibility that probably after the ODI World Cup, if things continue to be this way, India will have to look at other options. Because this just can't continue. The team by itself doesn't have a problem, but if you don't have someone who's really managing the troop well, then there is room to reconsider that. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, it needs to be looked at and also understood. कि चल क्या रहा बॉस वहाँ पे. There was an interesting comment. Was it Sportsman who mentioned कि और कुछ नहीं तो आशन ना कोई ले लो है, इनसे तो बढ़िया कर लेगा. That's actually not a bad shout यार.
Someone like a Rahul Dravid would I think really be amazing.
Dravid तो अभी RR है, so he'll be busy with that. But मैं तो कहता हूँ आशन्ना को women's team दे दो.
Or even someone like Jhulan Goswami. Honestly, the kind of mentor role that she can play. She's been working very closely with the Bengal team right now. A lot of players look up to her. So probably having someone like that in the setup would also probably, have a positive impact.
देखना. I mean, I'm just trying to think who are the other names they could possibly look at, but
Luke Williams and all of the.
No, abhi ke liye let's let it be simply because it's too early stage. I mean, too premature that way. I mean, when I say too premature, एक साल दिया, that's good enough time. But
probably let's just wait till the World Cup.
Exactly. In all fairness, there's no point trying to make the change 10 months before the World Cup. So let's just hold on to that. Before we talk about the 11, I know Artemis asked us that. There was this earlier comment on Deepti Sharma, so let us take that as well. Yeah, I get that here. There we go. Honestly, the bigger conversation for Team India is for Team India to have is what is happening with Deepti Sharma. The batting evolution we saw in the March of 2024 is missing in December. She needs solid support. Do you think it's a lack of support? Do you think it is lack of confidence? What do you think is the reason behind this? Because WPL ही नहीं, 100 में भी हमने देखा. She won the game for London Spirit. We all know 3-1. What happened after that? Why do you think has she not been able to translate those performances for Team India?
I think it's a great question. Kind of puzzling as to why she's not been able to do that on a consistent basis. But again, just going back to probably the root of the problem. Again, this is me hypothesizing. When you look at her playing in domestic cricket as well, right? Playing for Bengal, now she's back with UP. She's just playing out of position, right? And when you don't have a lot of exposure to, say, certain match situations, it's difficult to expect that player to come to the international level and deliver. So I think that has been a bigger letdown. Ki tum domestic mein jaake you're playing out of position, then you come back to international cricket. There is like a massive mismatch, At least I look at it that way. This is just me thinking right at the top of my head that these could be the possible reasons. Her playing out of position and not having proper role clarity also, within the Indian team. Kabhi unko like number 5 pe khila dete hain, number 6 pe, or sometimes even like really low in the batting order. And most of the times her entry point is when India's lost like a lot of wickets. So to expect her to, kind of conjure up all of the miracles that she did kind of do in WPL, the second season where she was awarded the MVP is a little like unfair to expect from. So I think it's like probably a mixture of all of these factors.
Bang on with the role clarity bit. That's where I agree with you. I'm not sure what is her role in the side. क्या करिए, bowling कौन से phases में डाल रही है, batting कहाँ पे करना है, कौन से situations में उनको भेजा जाएगा.
We were looking at her in the depth.
Bowling में आप कह रहे हो, that's how she began, but clearly there was that loss of form that meant कि
she's being used in the middle.
Exactly. Harman wasn't very confident, and then Shriyank also came in, so they were like they have other options, so वहाँ पे चलते हैं. But with the bat, especially in ODIs, I feel ODI is a format because she likes to take her time.
Yeah, and we all remember the iconic partnership with Poonam Rao.
That one day she scored. That was against Ireland, right?
Yes.
So, in fact, my question is, why has Team India or the management not really explored bringing her back at number 3? Left-handed है तो एक तो वो भी एक help कर जाएगा, left hand, right hand. Like she does not give her wicket away very easily. She always sits there, occupies the crease, plays a few deliveries. It could have saved you so much trouble because with middle order में तुम दूसरे options को explore कर सकते थे. Who could be better utilized, basically. वो नहीं हुआ है. And like you said, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9 तक को उनको भेज दिया है वहाँ पे. पता नहीं क्या है उनका रोल. Collapse होता है फिर भी we don't see Deepti coming in. अच्छे runs बन रहे, we sometimes see Deepti come in and you wonder कि boss चल क्या रहा है, why has she been sent? So that way, I genuinely don't know what the
I
rule
feel like
is.
that really messes up with the players' confidence as well, right?
Exactly,
my team doesn't really back me to, send me in at that position. Now, again, if India takes a punt and really sends her at number 3 in the upcoming ODI
ODIs.
series, what is this message you're giving to the rest of the batting order as well, right? So, in that sense, right now, we have a lot of problems of just, player management and just getting the combination right. But Deepti Sharma also not being in possibly the best form is also
That
a
again.
concern. Because WPL, she was playing for Melbourne Stars, right? A very, very disappointing season,
और
right?
bowling तो दिया ही नहीं, agree. Batting भी कुछ खास दिया नहीं, बहुत नीचे ही खेल रही थी, and
Yeah.
it was very unfortunate to
Very
see that.
unlike Deepti Sharma sort of a
That is
season,
true.
yeah.
But I would love to be a fly on the wall of those conversations that are happening. I just hope there are conversations happening within the setup where they are talking to players and making them understand what their role is. Kuch to ho bhai, matlab, I'm just hoping against hope right now at this point in time, because samajh mein nahi aata ki chal kya raha hai. We generally don't know if players know their roles or players don't know their roles, if the team management is being ineffective in communicating their roles and responsibilities
or
to
if
the
there's
players.
like a mismatch with what is expected of them at the domestic level and at international level what is expected. I think that mismatch also has to be addressed.
And I completely agree here as well. Why has the team management dropped Priya Mishra? Will it not lead to insecurities within the group?
Absolutely. Bang on with that.
वो तो मैं ODI series में बोल रहा था, she shouldn't have been dropped. After the first ODI, she was dropped and replaced by Minnu Mani. ऐसा भी नहीं कि पेसर को लाए. Minnu Mani top scored with that 46 and Minnu Mani played the third ODI.
Her bowling figures on debut were kind of, very difficult to see.
Debut तो अच्छा गया था ना, दूसरे गेम में वो
game
and again यार leg spinner है, time दो, young है, लगता है ना, like it was it's just very bizarre, yaar. Very bizarre. I agree with you, SS98, and we have no answers for that.
And considering she had done well in the A tour as well, right? For India A.
अरे first ODI में तो अच्छा किया था. I know वो wicket उन्होंने Ashley Gardner या जसीक का भी एक long hop पे उन्होंने एक wicket लिया था, but उसके अलावा she genuinely bowled well. But yeah, it is bizarre, and we'll of course now talk about this. The $1 million question right now is who will open with Mandhana. Let's take it a step further. We'll talk about the 11 itself. What do we think our 11 will be? We'll talk about the WPL Champions Trophy after that, producer Saab. Yeah, but right now 11. क्या लग रहा है? Smriti Mandhana. Then Harleen Deol.
I think we're possibly looking at her to open. Yeah. I mean, she does bat really top for Himachal Pradesh. So
ये क्या logic है? I open for Banerghatta 11. मेरे को ले लो.
Nandini Kashyap and Raghavi Bishan not a part of this team. Do we want Jemima to open? No. That is the kind of role she has.
I'm not saying squad में कोई दूसरा है. But ये जो reason है कि why is Harleen Deol opening? हाँ, because वो हिमाचल के ये.
And then what else? How else would you rationalize it in all fairness? Do you again want Uma Chhetri to open in ODIs? Because she hasn't given you that sort of confidence. Honestly, looked like a deer in front of headlights in the T20 as being extremely blunt here. Apologies.
ठीक है.
Uma, please come on our show. But then, sorry.
Number 3?
Number 3, probably Jemmy, because they kind of expected her to do that in the T20, so might as well have her do that in the ODIs as well. And we have, I think, at least I have advocated to have her at number 3. Although, the batting lineup then becomes very thin later on.
Okay. So, Smriti, Harleen, Jemmy, Harman, Richa. Tejal, Australia में नहीं खेली इतना confidently.
Home series में तो खेल सकती है ना? You need a solid double.
Australia में number 3 पे
Harleen.
अच्छा नहीं, open तो इसने क्या था ना, Priya Punya played. Okay. And Harleen was in the middle order. अच्छा ठीक है.
We saw glimpses of Tejal in the New Zealand series, right?
Yeah, she's done well, no doubt. Okay, so Tejal, her subness at number 5, Richa number 6, Deepti number 7. Whatever, मतलब
this part
interchangeable. Collapse hota hai, Deepti can be sent in earlier and all of that. So number 7, Deepti. 8, 9, 10, 11. Renuka is a lock-in. Let's have the squad out as well. एक बार देख ले options क्या हैं. I'm forgetting pacers. Titas or Titash Sadhu भी है. Saima Thakur is a lock-in for sure.
Absolutely.
So 10, 11, Raina, Saima. Renuka, Saima, sorry.
Renuka, yeah.
And then there are 2 more options. Minnu Mani, given that itna bharosa dikha hai, so number 8, Minnu Mani.
And
number 9,
Priya?
Yeah, I would go with Priya.
Yeah.
So number 9, Priya Mishra. Number 10 will be Saima. Number 11 would be Renuka Singh Thakur. So yeah, that sort of looks like the 11. So to be clear, once again, let's start from the top. Smriti and Harleen to open, Jemmy at number 3, Harmanpreet Kaur at number 4, Tejal Hasabnas at number 5, Richa Ghosh number 6, Deepti Sharma number 7, number 8 पे खेलेंगी Minnu Mani, number 9 will be Priya Mishra, number 10 Saima Thakur, number 11 Renuka Singh Thakur, Saima Thakur,
Saima Thakur.
Yeah. But does this 11 give you confidence?
In all honesty, no. We still have a lot of options we could have considered, but we have to make do with what we are presented with, and yeah, this is probably what we'll have to do.
But okay, if we look at the the bowling options, there's Renuka, Saima, and that's just 2 pace options.
2 pace options.
And then there's Deepti, Minnu Mani, and Priya Mishra. And no one else. That's just 5 bowling options, unless you want to bowl Smriti, you want to bowl Harleen, Jemmy, Harman.
See, that's where having someone like an Arundhati would have lent a lot of balance to the side. Chalo, tumko Pooja Vastrikar nahi chahiye, injured hai, fine. Shriyanka is not there. But having someone like Arundhati would have kind of balanced things out. Because then the entire onus of the pace department falls in this duo, right? And then again, it boils down to the conditions and how that sort of plays out.
Wow, man. So this 11 basically has only 5 bowling options.
Yeah.
And
batting does run a little deep, but then again it's like
depth. मतलब come on, तुम Priya और Saima पे तुम्हें अगर depend करना है तो वहीं पे तुम match हार चुके हो. You cannot, like, sure, but that's not the kind of batting you're looking. Number 9, number 10 पे मैं batting लेके क्या करूँ अगर bowling मेरा है ही नहीं. Bizarre. And meanwhile, Pooja also saying it's better to play Uma than Harleen. At least she won't waste deliveries and put pressure on Smriti. So, would you go for 0 of 2 or would you go for 14 of 30? That's the question to be answered. मेरा net मेरे को वही लगता है. These are the returns you'll get.
No, in all fairness, Uma Chhetri hasn't given me that sort of a confidence to, use her in the ODI series. I'd still give Harleen that go. I think in the Australia ODI series, we did kind of see her get those starts, but could not again capitalize. So I'd still probably give her that thoda, benefit of doubt ki maybe we can see her star in the West Indies series.
Yeah, and Harleen, it was the second ODI if I'm not wrong. यहाँ पे वो 18 उन्होंने बनाया था. She was looking good. Intent भी थोड़ा दिख रहा था वहाँ पे. And then Ashley Gardner baited her really well. Got her caught in mid-on. So I wouldn't blame her for that shot as well. So ठीक है, I'll still cut her some slack. थोड़ा मतलब can live with that call कि Harleen खेलेगी. And यार ODIs में कौन सा balls तुम्हें लेके जाना है, कहाँ लेके जाना है? मतलब you घर लेके तो नहीं जा सकते. So might as well have someone who occupies the crease. So it's fine.
I'd still give Harleen the go. Let's see how the series progresses. That's the problem, right? When India plays just like 3-match ODI series, there isn't a lot of like game time. Say if you have a 5-match T20 series, ODI series, that would be much better. But again, we just deal with what we are dealt with.
वो and also in terms of strike rates, Harleen क्या 70s में बैट करती है, ठीक है यार मैं ले लूंगा. अगर वो 30 बॉल में 18.
Considering India is still trying to find who can be that possible opener, and they don't want to give opportunities to the likes of Ragvi, Nandini, and all of that. So
और West Indies के पास भी importantly new ball bowlers Chanel Henry, then there's Deandra Doughton. ठीक है यार, I feel मतलब Harleen इनको तो खेल ही सकती है.
Still could negotiate.
मतलब again no disrespect to them. You would imagine कि if Harleen can compete against Kim Garth and Megan Shute and all of them, so you would imagine in दोनों को भी वो खेल पाएगी. So technique wise, I don't think that will be an issue. Agree with you guys कि strike rate will be a bit of a concern, but थोड़े तो runs बनेंगे ना. 14 ही ले लूंगा. उमा छेत्री से वो confidence दिखा नहीं अब तक. So that's why fair enough.
Again, it puts a lot of pressure on Smriti, and that is kind of unfair, right? If you have Uma opening with her, Uma को थोड़ा time दो. Let her, practice in the nets, be in the team setup, probably go back to domestic a bit and then come back. But again, just expecting her to deliver at the international level, I'm not sure is the right sort of strategy. Yeah. But let's see, India will do India things and we will be like, ye kya ho gaya? But yeah, this is us just making sense of whatever squad we dealt with.
देखते हैं वहाँ पे क्या होता है. And also Lavanya meanwhile saying, love Smriti but hope the bowling experiment with her stops. If Amol can call her up to bowl, then Harman should definitely pitch in. She actually is a solid all-rounder. यार ये तो हम पहले से बोल रहे हैं. Harman the captain does not trust Harman the bowler for whatsoever reason. Test cricket में तो मस्त bowling डालती है, wicket भी ले लेती है, but ODIs और T20s में उनको
but Smriti the bowler, I don't think we should look at it as an option only.
मुझे लगा मजाक में शुरू किया था, वो गलती से Suneli's ने Suneli's butterfly effect ही समझ लो. उसने एक विकेट क्या दे दिया बताओ, अब तक bowling करी है.
And one of the leading run getters in women's tests by the way, Suneli's. Played 3 tests in all Australia, India, and
South Africa against England, of course. Harleen was playing 30 of 60 somewhat in the last ODI against Australia when we needed to chase 298. She played so many dot balls, which ended up losing 5 wickets after Smriti got out. Pooja, again, ODIs. मतलब ODIs ऐसे नहीं खेला जाता ना. I completely agree with you. 30 of 60 is not done when you're chasing 298. But there's so many different nuances involved there. The fact that she was able to play 60 balls meant that none of the middle order or Jemmy at number 3 had to face the new ball, which meant now they could, play their natural game a lot more easily. So you need to take that into account, which in turn would have helped them score runs. Of course, wo log hak diye to abhi you can't put that on Harleen, right?
And just adding on to that is she was playing against a very fierce Aussie bowling lineup, kind of blunted that, new ball, so to say. So I wouldn't really fault her for not being able to, go all the way and end up winning the match for India. But then probably a little more if she can step up, just support Smriti from the other end. I think it should still help India with, getting solid starts. And we spoke about West Indies' bowling lineup also not being that great. So probably this series can be the start for her to, prove a lot of us wrong about why she's not the ideal opener that India is looking at.
And we can also see Hayley Matthews bowling the power play, by the way. Smriti had to matchup ke liye bhi. So that'll also happen. To dekhte hain wahan pe. Artemis meanwhile saying, Uma has been with the team since the Asia Cup now. Let her have some game time rather than dropping her for someone with no game time. एक तो उमा छेत्री ODIs में तो ज्यादा खेला ही नहीं उन्होंने.
Got a few odd matches like.
कब खेली वो मैं वो सोच रहा हूँ. New Zealand series did she play?
New Zealand नहीं.
Yeah, she didn't play the Australia ODIs. So Artemis she's been with the T20 setup. ODIs में उन्होंने ज्यादा नहीं खेला है. Like.
But again, that's like saying just because someone is in the team, unko aise opportunities do. It's about finding who will best perform for you on that day, right? Again, it's not like I have some vendetta against Uma Chhetri, but then the numbers just are very underwhelming. And
by the way, she's not played in ODI till now.
Okay.
So debut ही करना है उनको. So again, Artemis ODI setup में तो उन्होंने कुछ किया ही नहीं and खेला भी नहीं है. And yeah, I agree with you कि she being a part of the setup cannot be. Or should not be a reason कि हाँ उसको अभी match दे देते हैं.
She's definitely an upgrade from say the likes of Tanya Bhatia, Sushma Verma, and all of the past wicket keepers we've had. But again, that can't be a reason for.
Next क्या अभी अगर मैं कल को she's an upgrade और नेहा शेट्टी बोल दूँ तो I mean I'm sorry but come on.
No, I was just talking about the kind of the lineage of keepers we've had, right?
But you can't compare her with them ना यार. ये क्या बात हुई? ये तो एकदम ही गलत हो गया. Like I'm sorry but Tanya Bhatia.
Specialist keeper. We have spoken about that. But then I'm just telling you, India is looking to mine keepers who can also contribute with the bat, not
तो
just
नंदिनी कश्यप क्या कर रही थी? वही तो मैं पूछ रहा हूँ. Like what? And on top of that, why are you so hell-bent on getting a keeper? Richa Ghosh को आता है ना keeping. Do you have any concerns with her keeping? I don't think so. She's been doing just fine. So what is your obsession with grooming? I mean, if you want to groom keepers, squad में रखो. You don't have to play.
tours खिलवाओ.
हाँ, वही तो करना है. And that's what Uma has been doing pretty much. So, theek hai. So
that's why we were also, I think, of the opinion that Nandini Kashyap would have made a good choice for the ODI squad, but that hasn't happened. So okay.
अभी देखते हैं last 2 ODIs मतलब क्या अभी जो squad है वो तो all 3 ODIs का है ना. SS98 ऐसा नहीं कि एक ही ODI के लिए squad.
Assuming that one of them would underperform in the first one, and then you can probably have.
And first of all, SS98 उसके लिए किसी को injure भी होना पड़ेगा. किसका पैर तोड़ोगे वो बताओ पहले. तो उसके बाद हम वैसे ही होगा और क्या ऑप्शन है. But ठीक है. I mean that's that in terms of the India West Indies series. Anything else that we've left? We've spoken about most
pretty
players,
much,
most spots. जो भी बात करना है. Time for us, of course, to talk about the next series that ended, which was South Africa, England. The test match was
one-off test, yeah.
Exactly, एक test
एक
match.
side WPL का auction चल रहा है, एक और side में इनका one-off test चल रहा है. Lot of interesting talking points, right? Yeah.
Definitely. I was just trying to think कितने players थे जो in 22 में से Nadine de Klerk was the only one who got purchased.
Yeah, Heather Knight went unsold.
Went and sold. So was Lauren Bell. So was a lot of others. Daniel Gibson गई तो वो अलग बात है. ठीक है.
Yeah.
But in terms of the game itself, South Africa, of course, was this a first home test in how many years? I'm trying to remember
I think
that.
Good like. Not 12. उससे भी ज़्यादा I think.
I know
2004 में last खेला
घर पे.
हाँ.
2004 की 6. I know they played home test against Netherlands.
हाँ.
Netherlands. So Netherlands is a test playing nation by the way. So in
case
Kevin
Lights also just.
वो भी Netherlands test playing वो भी ऐसे चौक है बस.
No, but I think it was way back in like the early 2000s itself. So massive moment for South Africa, and they were hoping a lot of crowds would come in. But South Africa clearly did not look the part. They were struggling. Again, we have to acknowledge, and we spoke about this last time also, कि उनका एक domestic red ball structure नहीं है. और था भी तो it was just probably a few matches. And the players are not ready. You just can't give them the red ball and expect them to go play. So in that sense, it was difficult. But we still saw some resistance, right, coming from South Africa in that first innings. The way Marizan Kaap batted, Sunil Lees also.
Laura herself.
Yeah. All of them just, delivering when the team kind of needed them the most. And yeah, of course, the DRS drama.
वही बात करना था. DRS was very stupid first of all. International
bare minimum. How can you not have DRS? And quite surprised that a lot of players didn't speak up. They were like, "हाँ, मतलब होता है, life है, चलता है." They were talking about it like that. Honestly, there should have been DRS.
Yeah, I mean, Maharaja Trophy, TNPL, DPL, UP T20 में भी है भाई. मतलब it is. I mean, it almost is a reflection of the disparity that exists in the whole setup across different boards, but it was very unfortunate. We saw how livid Laura was when she was dismissed.
That was not even a reaction compared to what we see otherwise from other players.
But yeah, it almost triggered a collapse, and uske baad, good to see Dirksen also batted up top. 40 बनाया उन्होंने
first innings. She's properly being groomed, being given those opportunities to.
मैं तो screenshot लिया अपने message का. July 7th को मैंने किया था डेब्यू T20 डेब्यू पे. यार Dirksen मेरे को अच्छी लगी. So ये अभी I've stopped
bragging, right? Yeah. But in all fairness, I think she looked really good, and they are looking, like very futuristic way. Ki, we are looking at her as a potential successor.
Yeah, that's true. That's right.
Which some other teams could take.
वो नहीं लेंगे, वो पत्ते नहीं लेंगे, कुछ नहीं.
Take a leaf, yeah.
South Africa's bowling though, again, like just Malaba, took wickets, but bhai,
no support from the other end. The pacers looked flat.
And, Luby, and then just overall, again, lots to work on. You might take a few positives here and there, but then there's just a lot of road to
some
be
of all parts.
Yeah. And with England, of course, on the other hand, Maya Bouchier on debut century, a fantastic knock, practically chanceless. It looked so good. Unka 100, and then Nat Brand became the first ever, of course, centurion to score in or at greater than runner ball. England were, flawless in terms of how they performed.
They were streets ahead in all fairness, and I think they were winning a test match after a really long period of time, after a lot of draws and losses and everything. So they would, I think, really be proud of their performance.
Yeah, I mean, given that they also will be playing that day-night test in a month and a half.
Women's Ashes, let's go.
That's also going to be coming up. So, exactly. So, that will be great prep. All in all, but standout performers, of course, Lauren Bell, 2 4-fers, and was rightfully the player of the match. But how do you think South Africa can go from here, given that they will be playing a couple more tests in this cycle? Kya lagta hai yahan se, especially on the bowling front? Do you think there's any scope for improvement? I mean, do you know any options who can actually come in?
No, I think the first thing I would look at it is please keep a few, if not like full-fledged series, at least a few exhibition red ball matches. Let the players get that exposure and all of that. Keep a lot of inter-squad matches with the red ball. Just let them get acclimatized and used to that. So I think that can be the first step. If not, having a full-fledged series in their domestic structure, because it's difficult to expect, miracles from them being so inexperienced in the format. But again, looking at options in the domestic setup, I think the best ones are already selected. Matlab, they'll have to make do with whatever options they have. But even just looking at the test match, Marizan Kaap was bowled so less. I'm not sure what was the mindset,
Injury.
Workload management. ऐसा ही कुछ लग रहा है. But they'll have to actually unearth more talent, going ahead. But that's what, more exposure to domestic red ball matches is what I would look at.
Maybe right now they're just looking at each test as it comes. So
I'm not sure the right thing to do, because then you can't expect them to pull off.
But again, you can't blame them, because the South Africa test, the India test that they played was itself their first in 10 years, was it? Their last test.
It was coming for long gap.
Their last test before that was 2014 when Smriti made her test
in Mysore. Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
So a good 9.5, 10-year gap there. So this is their first time. So maybe going forward, this will be the start of something good for them as well. There's Lauren Filer, the current fastest.
I think she is.
In women's T20Is. Agar T20Is की बात करें, probably, because जो भी टक्कर दे सकते सब injured है.
Taylor, Flaminick.
Exactly. And folks. Yeah, Taylor ke alawa Darcy Brown to some extent earlier, but now there's been a clear drop in her pace
after a lot of injuries. In all fairness,
But I'll include Illingworth. Yeah, Molly Illingworth, is it?
Millie
Illingworth, sorry. But she also cranks up good pace.
And looking so good.
Slightly round armish action, but very consistent, मतलब consistently 118 19 120 22 पे डालती है, and she's
which in the
got a
women's
gun
game is
bouncer.
massive.
Yeah. So Lauren Filer consistently bowls at 122, 23. Yeah, so fingers crossed we will see a lot more of her. She was supposed to be a part of the Giant setup last year. Injury and all of that happened, and she couldn't be a part of it. Lauren Cheadle,
not Filer. Yeah.
Sorry.
Filer, we did have some expectations would get picked this WPL, but teams clearly seem to have other plans. So, yeah.
So no other pacers, right? Just trying to think. नहीं है. जो भी आएंगे इंग्लैंड ऑस्ट्रेलिया से ही आ सकते, to be honest. West
I
Indies
think like Kim Garth, Mahika Gaur, and all of these.
Mahika Gaur 120 तो नहीं थी यार, 105 110 पे थी, but yeah. And hey Akash, of course. So in terms of South Africa, England, yeah, that's a wrap from us. From that bilateral, एक और बचा, and then there's a senior women's ODI trophy to talk about as well. Next up, Australia and New Zealand, ODIs चल रहे, 3 ODIs हैं. The first one was washed out. Second one happened today. First innings अच्छे से हुआ. We of course saw Annabelle Sutherland score that brilliant
Yet again,
100.
another century. I mean, she's been on such a roll, right, in ODIs this year. And I think someone earlier in our comments did allude to her.
Up, if you could just, I'm really sorry, just go back and get that comment. We will take that up. But,
yeah, one of them were alluding to her being, looked at as the next Elise Perry for the kind of impact she has. And Annabelle Sutherland has had a wonderful 2024. The way she performed in the 100, was one of the most valuable players there. WPL, we didn't see that sort of an impact. But just looking at her growth and emergence in the international scene this year has been supremely impressive and so good for Australia. Because Elise Perry is again not getting younger by the day, and you need players, who can step up and kind of fill those big shoes. Annabelle Sutherland seems to be doing that perfectly well, even with the kind of bowling she's been doing in the death overs, with her batting. All in all, a very impressive all-round package.
100%. I mean, it's a telling stat that when she scored that ton against India a couple of weeks ago, she was the first ever Australian woman to score a century at number 5 or below. And now she's done that already again. This is going on to show, firstly, how dominant Australia's top order is, but the fact that Annabelle Sutherland herself is taking a claim there. I mean, it's fantastic to watch.
And this time around too, right? In the WPBL, her being given captaincy responsibilities. You have Meg Lanning in the team, yet her being entrusted with the responsibilities. I think it speaks volumes about how they are possibly looking at her as a captaincy option going ahead, because T-Mac is there definitely. But then again, you would still want to kind of invest young. Annabelle Sutherland is, I think, as old as me, 23.
Yeah.
So, you see that sort of youth and experience and how that could also come in handy for Australia. Because Alisa Healy, honestly, is getting injured very frequently.
आज तो keeping भी नहीं किया ना, covers में fielding करी थी, Beth Mooney उनको fielding tips दी थी. That's not how you should stand. ऐसे पकड़ो, ऐसे ये करो. It was very fun.
So long-term option, I think Annabelle Sutherland really paints a good picture of how all-rounders should be treated and other teams can take her.
आप ऐसे सबको देखे ही बोलोगे, पता है. But again, what's funny is she began this year with a fantastic bowling performance, and those T20s against India, she won those games
single-handedly.
Yeah, और मेरे दिमाग में, I'll be honest, तब तक I looked at Annabelle Sutherland as a bowling all-rounder. Even for Gujarat last year, she was picked as a bowling all-rounder who batted at number 8.
Wait, Delhi Capitals.
Last year, मतलब first year of WPL, Gujarat Giants के लिए bowling all-rounder. She would give 4 overs and batting number 8 पे उनको मिल रहा था.
Team तो हाँ.
तो मेरे दिमाग में वही था. Then we saw her score that double century, then WPL option, and then this, and then of course the way she played against South Africa, the way she's played against, of course, now New Zealand. Red ball, white ball, maybe ODIs, T20Is, bowling, batting, fielding, you name it, she's done it. So
seldom you find all-rounders who can excel across formats, be such a utility
and
player,
in both
right?
departments. It's phenomenal to watch. Can definitely be a great successor to Elise Perry. I just don't want to make that statement because I feel it's a bit disrespectful to Elise
it's a
Perry
disservice.
itself. So wait karte. Right now she's on track. She's on track for sure. But यार जो इन्होंने 1 साल में किया, एलिस पेरी ने वो 15 साल के लिए किया. तो अभी बहुत लंबा सफर उनको तय करना है. So we'll wait for that. How to make women tests relevant? WTC would force boards to prioritize them, or any other suggestion from you guys? यार
पहले तो marketing अच्छे से करो. Try to encourage a lot of like school students, a lot of like distribute those free tickets, have crowds sort of coming in. So the marketing aspect has to be done properly. Probably having a World Test Championship is a little like
premature.
far-fetched. Yeah, because not a lot of teams play, and you will see that massive discrepancy and gap, in the quality of Test cricket we see. But honestly, I'd start off with the marketing side of things. You have to do better on that front, get people interested, and have a proper demarcated structure in your domestic side of things as well. मतलब तो ऐसा इंटरनेशनल क्रिकेट में थोड़ी ना रेड बॉल के साथ खेलना शुरू कर यू नीड टू हैव अ सेटअप इन योर डोमेस्टिक साइड ऑफ थिंग्स ओनली देन विल यू सी दैट ट्रांसलेट सो आई स्टार्ट ऑफ विद द मार्केटिंग एंड द डोमेस्टिक साइड ऑफ थिंग्स
I would actually just focus on the domestic structure. I'm sports fan. This is again the answer to this might not be something a lot of people would like, but we cannot make it relevant in 2 years or 3 years. You have to.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, you have to look at it as a 10-year plan or a 15-year plan even. जहाँ पे तुम अभी पहले domestic structure बनाओ, you have to build it from scratch. There's no point having South Africa play, West Indies play, Zimbabwe play. Zimbabwe is going to play a test in this cycle. There's no point.
And Bangladesh recently announced a domestic red ball tournament. Yeah.
So वहाँ से start करो. पहले just have domestic cricket going on. Even if you look at men's cricket, the only reason men's test cricket worked was because Ranji Trophy पहले से होता है. There's of course the county cricket, the Sheffield Shield. Sheffield Shield भाई 1850 से आ रहा है, हो रहा है. So that's what helps. जब 1850 में वो 1850 से Sheffield Shield खेले थे, that's why in 1880 when they played their first ever test, or 1870 probably, they played enough domestic cricket, so they had a hang of how to play the sport.
Absolutely,
and it takes time, especially in this format. It's not easy. So I would first look at just having domestic competitions across the board in each of these countries. Chuck international cricket for them. You can focus on Australia, India, England, maybe to some extent South Africa, given that South Africa have already played each of these 3 countries in the last 1 year. So you can have these 4 countries play for now. The others will have to first work on their domestic structure. So New Zealand, maybe from what I understand, there is a red ball.
There is a red ball
tournament that happens. If I'm getting,
because I'm not sure about this one, but okay.
Okay, then I might be wrong there. But I know New Zealand themselves haven't played Test cricket in over 15 years.
I think the last they played was 2004.
Before Sophie and Susie made their debut. Itna pata hai. And Susie made a debut first in 2006, Sophie in 2008. So usse pehle hi hai, jo bhi hai. But point being, वहाँ से start करो फिर. Like first have a domestic competition going on in these countries.
Should set the ball rolling. Honestly,
evaluate, like ICC or the other boards can evaluate, how these domestic competitions are faring. You know what? Domestic competitions rakho, have sides tour. इंडिया जो टूर करता है ना, वैसे तुम कर्नाटका से टूर कराओ, महाराष्ट्र से टूर कराओ, बांग्लादेश से, I don't know, Chittagong, Dhaka, like whatever, these provinces, these states, they can tour. And there you will get a much better understanding of where these teams stand. Right now, we look at Karnataka doing well in the domestic structure. You would think, okay, the players there are very good. But maybe when they play someone from the county setup or someone from the Sheffield Shield setup, you'll realize, okay, we're way off. So that'll give you a better understanding. So that's how I would look at it.
I think just to add here, Ranji Trophy did have that system where they would invite a team from like...
Earlier, yeah.
So I hope that sort of thing also returns in the domestic structure. It would really like amp up the competition. I just want to like go on a tangent here, talking about the WNCL. I was just having a look at the scores of, the past few matches. वहाँ तो मतलब easily बन रहे हैं, like, scores of 270, 280 and all of that. Compare and contrast it with the kind of scores we're seeing in our senior women's one-day trophy. Teams are struggling to, get to even that 250, 300 mark. I know a lot of people will come at me कि मतलब conditions अलग हैं, Australia का system अलग है, players and everything. But you need to see those structural changes at the domestic level to be able to, eventually see changes in the international setup.
And those changes take time.
A lot of years.
It's very gradual. So this is how I would look at it. In fact, men's Ranji teams have toured here. I know Karnataka has toured Namibia, Punjab has toured Namibia. Earlier as well, there have been emerging tours conducted where, if you guys have checked out the Unmind episode with Vijay Bhardwaj, he spoke about this emerging tour that happened where South Africa A, New Zealand A, Australia A, and Karnataka played a tournament. So, ye sab karo. Have these sides play before you have the country, playing Test cricket, because there's no point playing Test cricket for the sake of it. It just feels like, you're playing or you're making teams play for the sake of it, and does not. If it looks bad, it looks bad on not just the side, on Test cricket in general. It has to be watchable. Like, you also have to understand.
In all fairness, you need clear initiative and intent from the cricketing boards themselves. Ki boss, we look at Test cricket as something which is very sacred to the game, something which has the potential. And I don't buy into this whole theory of, attention span and all of that. We see the Border Gavaskar Trophy that's happening now. there are fans who are watching. ऐसे नहीं बोल सकते कि IPL kids are not watching this and that. You have people who avidly understand the rules and regulations of Test cricket. I'm not sure why it doesn't percolate to women's cricket as well, and
why not?
More
because sorry to interject, but you also need to understand it has to be, like when I say watchable, I mean there needs to be parity, quality दोनों तरफ दिखना चाहिए. South Africa, England में, in all fairness, barring Laura, Maizan and maybe to some extent Sune, the way they played Dirksen and all, नहीं लगा ना जब बॉल डाल रहे थे,
एक्सपोजर ही नहीं था
वही इसीलिए तो मैं बोल रहा हूँ, you can't make them play for the sake of it. And if the game isn't watchable, then no one's going to watch. The best way to market a game is by performances, is by good matches, is by thrilling encounters. If, like when South Africa were bowling, in all fairness, for most parts it looked like how England are they going to get a wicket?
England was playing a one-day game and they were just scoring those runs. Danny White scored a quick fire knock and all of that. मतलब ऐसे ही चल रहा था.
So that's why, like, on the other hand, India, England, India, Australia, both the tests that happened last year were great to watch. Not just because India won, because you actually saw both sides competing well. You want that. When that happens now, next month, when the Women's Ashes happens, you will see that.
We'll have to see. It's a pink ball.
It's a pink ball. It's a day-night test. So you get to see that you can be assured of quality. Jo bhi ho, tumhe dekhne ko milega, both sides fighting, like, actually.
But even in general, just overall looking at the health of Test cricket, even in like men's cricket, the likes of, say, West Indies or South Africa, when they are struggling, right, to get in crowds to watch the matches. Cricketing boards don't want to spend so much because they're ending up like bleeding a lot of money and not getting any returns out of it. And that's why I think South Africa even started SA20 to, kind of just balance things out. So it's not just a women's Test cricket problem.
Crowds, I agree. I completely agree with you. Crowds mein to issue hai, and that's a larger problem. That's why your attention span and all of that comes into picture. Because you're expecting people to pay money and actually come and watch it. On TV, it can be passive watching, it can be secondary watching, to chal jata hai. But TV viewing men's cricket, I don't think has gone down massively. TV viewing abhi bhi hota hai. Neutrals bhi dekhte hain, har koi dekhta hai. So that's right now. I'm not looking at women's test, having lots of fans coming to the stadium and watching them. At the very least, I want TV viewership to be at a certain level. For that, the matches have to be of a certain level. So it'll take time. It can't. There's no quick fix for it. So let's hope, like Bangladesh, a lot of other teams also, take notice and organize more regional tournaments, more domestic competitions.
That's the only way to go in all
Exactly.
fairness,
There's no shortcut to it. So, fingers crossed we will get to see that. So that was that from Test cricket, and of course New Zealand Australia review jaisa likha hai band, wo to kab ka nikal gaya, but
sorry.
That was that from Test cricket bolna chahta hu, whatever, Test cricket chat hi bol sakta hai. Now coming to Senior Women's Monday Trophy, we saw 2 pre-quarters happen today. Monday se quarterfinals are going to start. Delhi, Madhya Pradesh, Delhi, Madhya Pradesh, J&K. Then there is Mumbai, there's Railways, and 5 I know. There's Andhra Pradesh did not qualify. Maharashtra, of course, आज उन्होंने जीता. So that's 6 teams. बाकी तो मैं याद करने की कोशिश करता हूँ. It's Delhi versus Mumbai. Bengal is there. Haryana is there. Yes.
Haryana, Lovely.
All 8 teams.
Off the top of my head, मुझे याद नहीं है, but then I've been following.
याद तो मुझे भी नहीं. I hope I've not repeated one of them. But today, let's start with that. आज की
the only match that was broadcasted or streamed. Streamed.
Karnataka, Maharashtra, and there was also another pre-quarter, Delhi, Uttarakhand. वो फिर भी मतलब stream नहीं हुआ. So I don't know if I should consider myself lucky or not, क्योंकि match मेरे को live देखना पड़ा और we had to see that heartbreak as, of course, Karnataka fans, if I may say so.
I mean, for the people who haven't followed the match, we eventually had Karnataka lose. They did come in places where, there was a possibility ki jeet jaye, but then Maharashtra ended up just proving too good for them. From a Karnataka POV, I think Akshay and I were raving about, Vrinda Dinesh, the kind of start she gave. And, if she could have just carried on with her knock, it could have meant a world of good for Karnataka. But then Veda Krishnamurthy with her, very mature captain knock of 68, kind of, helping the cause in that way. Anuja Patil picks a fifer for Maharashtra, looked amazingly, good, very much in rhythm.
Bad maybe, collapse. She arrested a collapse for Maharashtra, came in when the scoreboard at 4 for 4. From there, score 39 or 41, ensured that they took.
At one stage, Maharashtra was like 4 for 4, chasing that 200 odd total. And I think Akshay decided, it's an easy Karnataka win. But that wasn't the case because Maharashtra kind of has a very deep batting lineup. I think Shweta Mane, came to
we'll talk about,
party, scored that lovely knock. So it was
Risk, importantly, yeah. That's true.
it was kind of a nail biter, I'd say, because last में भी लग रहा था कि if
wicket मिल जाए तो,
Karnataka could do something, but Veda kind of acknowledged later that it was a very like inexperienced bowling attack. They're still trying to find their feet. They should play a lot more age group cricket, figure things out. But all in all, I think I'd say it was a great match for all the people who were watching, live. At least we had a good time.
Yeah. And, I mean, again, to set more context, Karnataka batted first, and Vrinda Dinesh got off to a great start, but lost too many partners. Karnataka were on the brink of, being bundled out for even less than 100. They were at 7 for 95 with Veda Krishnamurthy in the middle. From there, they also plunged further low to 9 for 148, if I'm not wrong. Last wicket partnership, a 50-plus wicket partnership. Ananya Hegde, shout out to her, yeah. Very good batting from her. Jo bhi jitna bhi wo kar paye, 29 of 40-50 balls, jo bhi unhone kiya, helped Karnataka reach 210. And then, of course, like Neha said, Maharashtra were down and out at 4 for 4.
Yeah, Kiran Navgire, all of them were back to the pavilion. I was so excited to see Kiran Navgire, but her getting out for a duck
was even more exciting.
It was unfortunate. I really want to see her, bat a little bit, but then the way they just came back was nice.
Yeah. Akash, meanwhile, saying the way you people sweetly criticize, no player will take cricket seriously, yaar. You should learn how the mainstream journalists criticize players in media and Twitter. That's why men's cricket has accountability. I mean, Akash, I genuinely appreciate the fact that you think we have that much clout, that because we aren't being critical enough, you think the Indian side isn't doing well. First of all, or what more do you want to say? Should we use expletives? Should gali dena, is that what's missing?
I don't think we kind of subscribe to that sort of things. We want to be as objective as possible. I know a lot of people objective ke naam pe kuch bhi chal raha hai, but then I don't know what more.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, if we were saying are ye aisa hoke waisa, if we were beating around the bush or something, then sure. But I think jo bhi point, we've spoken about Harman's captaincy, we've spoken about Smriti's batting and the lack of big game knocks. We've also probably spoken about the selection woes and how India has struggled, Arundhati's misfortune. I don't know what have we not been critical about Deepti Sharma's own performances. Anyways, Akash, feel free to let us know. More than happy to take the feedback and, of course, work on it. If you think we're being too sweet, sure. Meanwhile, sportsman, I don't know if you'll get heart over here. Unfortunately or not. Acha, Neha can probably do that. It has to be done there.
Yeah.
Guys, love the discussion. Keep doing this. It's okay. No worries. Thank you so much, sports fan. But coming back, the Maharashtra game, 4 for 4. Shweta Mane and then Anuja Patil, the experienced Anuja Patil. For those who don't know, she's played a lot of T20Is and for India. I checked that 50 T20Is.
A very unassuming character. Post-match conference, I was like, "Arey, Didi, thoda show the captaincy bias." But in all fairness, I think she's been doing so well in the domestic circuit.
Yeah,
you actually see BCCI scorecards as well. It's like AA Patil. So for the uninitiated, they'll be like, "Arey, kaun hai ye?" But it's Anuja Patil.
And by the way, she's still young. She's not very old. She's
early 30s?
Yeah, 32 right now. मतलब comeback अभी भी है, कर सकते हैं अगर कुछ होता है तो the grandest scheme.
A wily all-rounder, something India would could possibly benefit from, but again, it shouldn't seem reactionary कि the players perform nahi kare, like bringing in newer options, but yeah.
And special shout out or special mention to Ananya Hegde with the ball as well. उनका leg spin मेरे को अच्छा लगा. What was, although I don't know if I can say concerning, but maybe one thing that she can work on is her pace. Right now, she's very slow. She sort of subscribes to the Poonam Yadav school of leg spin.
Yeah.
Her average speed was at 68, 69. बहुत ही ज़्यादा धीमे डाल रही थी. It worked here because they were tailenders, so they had to create pace and power of their own. But अगर आप international cricket में 68, 69 में flight करोगे, तो Poonam Yadav will.
My mind went back to Saima Thakur trying the back of the hand. That was going at 60s and everything. But anyways,
Amanjot Kaur also did that. I remember Amanjot Kaur bowling an entire over of just back of that.
Yeah, it was painful to watch. We
did a watch along for that probably. I remember just screaming on back of that slow ball.
Yeah, but again, coming back to our topic of senior women's Sunday trophy, Maharashtra's win was very clinical. They are poised to play Railways next.
Yeah, Maharashtra play Railways. That's correct. Yeah. And the other peak waters was between Delhi and Uttarakhand.
Yeah, ये match will stream हो सकता था because Nandini Kashyap ended up scoring a brilliant century. Raghavi Bisht, scoring a half century as well.
Yeah.
And you could see the importance of this duo in that Uttarakhand setup, because in their absence, Neelam was doing a decent job, but then Raghavi Bisht and Nandini Kashyap have been the talk of the town. So it was really nice to, kind of see them come back to the groove and do their thing.
So they scored 271 if I'm not wrong.
Which was a very competitive total. Socha ki jeet hi lenge, but then Delhi of course had other plans. Tanisha Singh.
Exactly, it wasn't one of their bigger names, and say Shweta Sehrawat, who's actually had a very
average sort of thing compared to her stats from last season.
Last season, again, I'll still say last season उनका वो अरुणाचल वाला हटा दे तो वो भी वही लगेगा, but ठीक है जो भी है, youngster है, उनको मैं मिला भी हूँ तो I won't be very harsh. Sorry, okay, now I get Akash. Probably we are mean to speak, but no, jokes. Those are all jokes. Once again, that was also a fantastic game.
But Uttarakhand ended up losing, which was a reflection of how their bowling attack just couldn't come to the party. Ekta Bisht is of course a part of Uttarakhand. She's also the captain.
Yeah, she's the captain of course. And they were last year's finalists, so make no mistake, they have been doing well. Tanisha Singh was the player of the match. They picked the 3-4 with the ball and also scored a fantastic century. टॉप परफॉर्मर्स का ग्राफिक ही डाल देते हैं क्योंकि हमने ऑलरेडी एक दो नाम तो बोल ही दिया है यहाँ पे भी इसको.
Do you have even like round 7 के?
Yeah. So there we go. There's Tanisha Singh and Anuja Patil जिनके बारे में हमने ऑलरेडी बात कर लिया है. Nandini Kashyap, of course, another fantastic century today. Then there's Henrietta Pereira, who scored a solid 116 or 147 for Andhra Pradesh against J&K. Unfortunately, they could not win that game because J&K had other ideas. Jazia Akhtar, Rubia Syed, and the rest of them came to the party. They chased down 240 odd with 6 wickets in hand and about 5 overs to spare.
Yeah.
Importantly, each of them scored in excess of 20. So all of their top order got starts, and that's what helped them in the chase. Bisma Hassan for Kashmir in the very same game took a 5-4. That was also very good to watch. 5 for 45 in her 9 overs. And that was also another interesting game to watch because Andhra Pradesh, in all likelihood, given that they have decent names up their ranks, would have started favorites against J&K, but wasn't to be the case. J&K,
Andhra is led by S. Meghna.
Yeah, S. Meghna this time around. She's also made the move back from Railways. Going back to the first episode. Itna lamba callback hum karte hain, batao.
Yeah.
But that was also a good game to watch. In terms of results, all in all, I remember Bengal lost a very interesting game, a very close game. That was a bit surprising. No, sorry, Bengal defeated Karnataka. No, Bengal defeated Karnataka. That was the game. Karnataka lost to Bengal. Vrinda got out for a duck. Wahin pe match khatam. Clearly showing how important
and how over-reliant they are on her.
Exactly.
In that setup,
But all in all, in terms of performances, these were of course a few names. Any more that come to mind, Neha? Results, matches?
I remember one from the past week that I was talking to you about of how Tripura, pulled off that win versus Rajasthan. Tamanna Nigam.
Karnataka then against Tripura. We saw what happened.
Vrinda Dinesh and Subhash Satish.
Subhash Satish.
Yeah, we always get that wrong. So her also kind of, stepping up. Besides that, I remember sending you a long list of, top performers.
There was also Sanskriti Gupta, by the way, who did
and Akshita Maheshwari, yes. They were really good,
Both are MI buys, by the way. So Sanskriti Gupta, for those who don't know, left-hand batter, right-arm off-spinner. She got a 3 for 30 against Delhi, but unfortunately...
I think for Delhi, no. For Madhya Pradesh was...
Yeah, against Delhi. But Madhya Pradesh lost the game. And then there was Akshita Maheshwari as well.
For Rajasthan?
Yeah. For Rajasthan, I'm forgetting who was the opponent, but medium pacer did well once again. So that was good to watch. Also, kal behan jo bhi...
Hey, Dial and Hemlata's 6-4, we should talk about that. The opposition was Tripura.
One of the northeast states.
Meghalaya, one of those teams. She got a 6-4 by just giving like 4 runs.
6 wickets, 4 runs in 8 overs. Bizarre. Prema with a handy cameo. Arish, I am not considering that. मैं पहले बोल जागा Prema batting अभी मत देखो. Prema Rawat, of course,
primarily
leg spinner. She's primarily a leg spinner, but that was a fantastic cameo from her against Delhi itself. He's referring to this game. I'm assuming you're also Arish, just to confirm. वहाँ पे astronaut है, तो we can't really get much out of that. But tomorrow is also the Under-19 World Cup final. India
versus Bangladesh, right? Yeah. India's had a great sort of tournament, right? They haven't lost a single game. They've had a lot of players, step up. It's been a collective team effort. I think we were just, rambling names that time, like the likes of Ayushi Shukla and Sonam Yadav,
Parunika Sasodia, Kamalini Prasad, sorry,
all of them
Sanika
just
Chalke, of course. And then बोला नहीं है बोलो जोशिता बोल देते हैं
जोशिता
एक ही मैच खेला है बहुत गुस्सा है इंडिया सो आई लेजेंड वॉच्ड मतलब खोला तीनों मैचेस के लाइव स्ट्रीम्स आज देखूंगा हर बार 11 आता है अरे यार कहीं तो खिला लो यार unfortunately not play after the
I think Biju sir spoke highly of Joshita, the kind of impact that she's had.
Yeah, you can go check that reel out on our Website
Socials?
profile, socials, yeah. YouTube,
Yeah.
on our YouTube feed, of course. Thoughts on Monica Patel? Can she play for India in the near future?
Monica Patel did make her debut, remember, in that South Africa series, वो pandemic time में, did not...
वो इंदौर ना कहाँ पे हुआ था ना वैसे ही था.
Lucknow.
हाँ, Lucknow. One of those, yeah.
Didn't inspire a lot of confidence.
She played for Gujarat as well, na? In the first season and let go of.
She was good today, but then...
Yeah. मतलब near future तो पता नहीं SS98 like अभी तो it's going to take her a while.
We have a lot of pace bowling all-rounders, not all-rounders, pace bowlers in that pecking order, so I don't see.
I'm just, like, look at the pecking order. I'm not even building a pecking order. Let's just talk about all the pacers who are right now, you know, in the reckoning.
Arundhati, Pooja,
Renuka,
Saima,
Titash, that's 5.
Saili Sadgare.
In the reckoning, would you say? Like,
यार मतलब वो
यहाँ अच्छा करी है, no? कौन से रिजर्व साउथ न्यूजीलैंड वाले में
traveling reserve for World Cup.
इतना
Akshay won't count it. Okay. Manali Dakshini from Mumbai. No.
ये बहुत आगे जा रहा हूँ.
I thought you wanted the pace reserves in total.
Not reserves in total.
Pecking order for India, no?
Like who are already part of the setup in some shape or form. So you've got, anyways, we've already listed out 5 names, and Monica is definitely not, you know, above any of them. Pooja Vasarkar, for what it's worth, उनका भी
पूजा का नाम लिया था ना?
लिया. अच्छा, Pooja, Arundhati,
Saima,
Renuka, Titash. Okay.
Are we missing out anyone?
I'm just trying to think. शिखा पांडे बोलने का मन करता बट
we will पत्थर मारने आ जाएंगे, but
तो जो भी है 5 पेसर्स, एक तो ये 11 में ही 2 खिलाते हैं, तो मतलब
रेणुका, रेणुका,
या रेणुका तो 5 ही नाम है, but even then SS98 Monica Patel, I don't know if she's the name they'll be looking at.
Similar to Anjali Sarvani, matlab they do well in domestic cricket here and there, but not international cricket.
But ज़्यादा pace है इनके पास. अंजलि से तो ज़्यादा. अंजलि है भाई. मैं वैसे बोल रहा हूँ, not ज़्यादा pace in isolation, of course.
Yeah, no discredit to the kind of performances they've done, but then probably not international cricket ready as yet.
Exactly. It'll take a bit more time. Also, given that there's so many other exciting talents coming up. Kranti Gaud, she also did well today, by the way. And then there's Joshita. Matlab, the reason we take these names, because they actually have a bit of that X factor that you're looking for.
Shabnam Shakil.
Yes. Yeah. By the way, so Shabnam MD, जो अंडर 19 वर्ल्ड कप में,
It's the same person.
हाँ, मैं एक सेकंड के लिए कंफ्यूज हो गया था कि एक्शन तो एकदम सेम लग रहा है. Is it the same
person? Yeah.
Thank God.
Yes.
Yeah. फोपा बोल रहे थे, हो गया ना. But she's another name for sure. She also made her debut, na?
She made her debut.
South Africa T20s.
Haan.
I feel she made her debut. Let's just take that. Meanwhile, you can read this comment.
The management is shit, if I don't say it politely. They are playing inky pinky ponky with the batting order, and don't get me started on the selection, kicking out players who were your best performers. Moira, I think this was one of the points that we were reflecting on a little earlier, and we were called out for being a little sweet and, you know, criticizing not in the most appropriate way. But a completely fair point there on this, that Arundhati not being there, again, just going back to the angst we have from inside of her not being a part.
Meghna Singh.
Don't forget,
please.
she's still in the ace.
No. I'm forgetting her. I'm forgetting Arish.
I mean, she did pick a 5 for.
She'll pick 10 for. I'll still forget. I'm sorry, Meghna Singh. No disrespect. But Shabnam Shakil played the 8er. It was India, not the
it was India debut. मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा था, but then 8er.
वहीं पे देखा था उनको, but
the pace reserves is basically looking good, much better than the kind of situation we found ourselves, maybe say 2021 and all of that.
Yeah, for sure. For काफी नाम है, तो इसीलिए, so I would have Komal over her. Left arm pacer ही चाहिए, तो I would have her over her. Shraddha Pokarkar even over Monica Patel, because Shraddha is also very tall, bowls at 105, 106.
Yeah, played for Maharashtra also.
Played for RCB also.
Plays for Maharashtra, played for RCB.
Sorry, correct.
Yeah.
But तो इसीलिए तो फिलहाल तो मोनिका पटेल शायद नहीं, but देखते क्या होता है वहाँ पे in terms of names. So that's that from the senior women's ODI trophy as well. And I feel we've wrapped up pretty much whatever we wanted to talk about. There was just one comment about WPL overlapping with Champions Trophy that we can talk about. Earlier, it came much earlier. Comment आता है तो ठीक है. But WPL overlapping with the Champions Trophy, do you think that'll be a cause for concern?
Slightly, because the Champions Trophy is already in the news for all the reasons. I'm not sure right or wrong, but aap decide kar lena. So in that sense, I think it's going to be a tad concerning, because the Champions Trophy has the best of the best teams competing. It's a showpiece men's event, and you have the WPL that's still kind of, you know, contending or, you know, fighting for those eyeballs. So having a possible clash between these two is far from ideal, but then the WPL, with the way it's been going, has been able to build a reasonable fan base, people who are interested to watch. But ये देखना है कि timings का क्या होगा, like Champions Trophy matches, when will they start? Will they, like exactly interact? Will, yeah.
See, वो Indian viewers, everyone wants to cater to the Indian viewers. So, अगर USA में लोग सुबह मैच करा सकते हैं, पाकिस्तान तो सिर्फ आधा घंटा पीछे.
Okay, so for most of us fans, we'll just probably keep 2 screens, watch both of them together. But I think it might be a slight.
ना मेरा सिंपल है, एक ही स्क्रीन WPL देखो, आगे बढ़ो. ऐसे भी ODIs को तो मैं क्रिकेट ही नहीं मानता. बोल देने का ऐसा. See, this is what gets you viewers. If anyone's looking for advice, so there you go. Just jokes once again. But yeah, it is a bit of an issue in the sense that you will have divided viewership now.
Yeah.
Because WPL, of course, was making a mark for itself, but now that it'll be competing with international cricket, won't be international men's cricket, that too, it won't be easy. And like Neha mentioned, given all the hype, all the conversations that have been happening around it, not hype, there will be a lot of eyeballs invariably, and India-Pakistan khel raha hai. And it's also happening in Pakistan. This is the first ever tournament in Pakistan in over 20 years, or nearly 30 years.
And India's match is happening in a neutral venue.
Exactly. So, wo bhi sab hai. So, given that naturally thodi zyada eyeballs honge, fingers crossed, it won't necessarily affect a lot of the WPL viewership. Funnily enough, the Champions Trophy is scheduled to begin on the 19th of Feb and goes on till the 9th of March. The WPL apparently scheduled from the 6th of Feb to the 9th of March. So finals bhi agar tum साथ में डालोगे यार तो मतलब it's a little tough, yeah. It's not going to be easy. SS98, we'll wrap this episode up with this question, guys. Last question, thoughts on Kashvi Gautam? We've spoken about her earlier though, right?
Unheralded talent. I mean, very unfortunate that injury kind of ruled her out of those seasons of WPL. But the very fact that Gujarat has kind of persisted with her, didn't let go of her, speaks volumes about the kind of impact she can have. Back in the domestic circuit, she plays for Chandigarh.
Yeah. Captain's Chandigarh.
Yeah, so we've seen glimpses of promise. I hope this WPL season can kind of, be a stepping stone for her eventually into the India team, because तुम Arundhati Reddy को opportunity नहीं दे रहे हो, Pooja Vastrakar को नहीं कर रहे हो, so at least Kashvi Gautam can present herself as that sort of an option. But I think the biggest competition for her in that setup will be Simran Sheikh too, right?
Simran, but
bowling उतना अच्छा नहीं है, but batting थोड़ा they're looking to add that firepower as well.
अच्छा, you're saying Gujarat में?
Gujarat.
Yeah. I thought India के लिए तो
नहीं, that is very far-fetched. So I see that as a possible concern. Like, will Gujarat want to stick with her?
No, they'll play both. 2.2 and 1.9 कहाँ से छोड़ेंगे?
They can't afford to do that.
Yeah, they'll be playing both of them. And वो lineup जो 11 भी हमने बनाया था, number 5 pick, number 6 pick. So she bats at number 4, number 5 for Chandigarh, of course, bowls for them as well. Got good pace. She's got a very clean action. So again,
at least whatever we have seen, we're very convinced with that. And I hope this season of the WPL can be a breakthrough sort of.
That's true. So anyways, that's our thoughts from, on Kashvi Gautam. And that's that from this episode of the Women's Cricket Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you hit the like button if you haven't already. And all of you listening on Spotify, please make sure you rate us there as well. वहाँ पे भी like शायद like है वहाँ पे.
Now you can follow the podcast and then press the bell icon and then even rate the show. So
ये सब करो, rate तो करो और बाकी सभी चीजें करो. And all of you guys, folks watching on Twitter, please थोड़ा सा effort हमारे लिए. I know it's a bit of an effort, but please hop onto YouTube and hit the like button. It'll do us a world of good. It'll spread the podcast. It'll spread some love to us as well. Until then, it's a goodbye from all of us. Have a fantastic Sunday tomorrow. India, of course, will start the first ODI against West Indies, so you guys can watch that. We'll see you guys next week. Until then, it's a goodbye. Take care. Ta-ta.